You're watching CBS Sports HQ. We love countdowns, right? And we're about a year out from the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and the U.S. men's national team not looking so hot last night, getting absolutely rocked by Switzerland in their final friendly before the Gold Cup, losing 4-0 to the Swiss, with all of those goals coming in the first 36 minutes of the match. The U.S., they're going to start their Gold Cup campaign on Sunday, and we're looking at the last 4 games under their new head coach, new manager there, and it's not looking good. L. As mentioned, a year out from the World Cup, and it's not really the time where you want to put out like a historically bad performance in a friendly. That was the first time since 1980 against Mexico that the U.S. men's national team allowed 4 goals in the opening 40 minutes of a match. So what adjustments need to be made from the U.S. men's national team between now and June of 2026? So we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about the World Cup and some of the format changings. And for that, let's welcome in Michael LaHoud, the dude, 1 year out from the World Cup. And I feel like, Michael, for Americans who aren't really into soccer or football, if you will, on like a national stage, the World Cup is the time where they pay attention, they get really riled up for it, and North America is hosting it for the first time since 1994. So the U.S. men's national team needs to step it up for the sake of America, because we're all getting excited that we're going to have some of these matches on our home soil, and they're putting up a 4-0 performance. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, look, they're killing my buzz. They're killing your buzz. They're killing my buzz. And, you know, my brother-in-law, and I think you bring up such a great point, my brother-in-law, Dane Fisher, he's not a soccer fan by nature. Last night, he was tuning in from upstate New York, and he texts me and he goes, I thought we were good. When are we going to get it together? I'm kind of losing a bit of interest in this. And that stuck with me because this is such a global phenomenon. I remember back in the World Cup in '94, a big reason why people gave a damn about soccer after the World Cup, and you saw the domino effect, was because the U.S. team didn't just have heart, passion, grit. They got out of the group stage. They made you believe in something. They laid a foundation that, hey, this could be one of the powers to be reckoned with if we keep grinding away and putting money into it and putting the right resources, getting the right coaches. And here we are in almost 2026, and we don't even know who our best players are. We don't even know who the depth chart is. And seeing some of the recent results is one thing, but seeing the lack of application coming from the coaching staff, yep, I'm going there, Mauricio Pochettino, and the lack of application and passion coming from the players, that's pretty worrying.
And we know Pulisic dealing with some things not out there, but still, it's really bad, especially 1994. We saw it. We want that same sort of like boost and aura around the U.S. men's national team, and we're not feeling it right now, as mentioned. So we're going to get into the World Cup, the format changes, all of that. So several U.S. cities are going to host, with 6 of those being host cities for the very first time. So what are your expectations for some of these host cities, Michael, on our home soil, in the U.S.?
Well, I think back in '94, a lot of your just Midwest, no-stress cities, like your Detroit, Soldier Field in Chicago, got a lot of love. California will always get love, especially Stanford Stadium up in Northern California. The Rose Bowl in Pasadena hosted the World Cup final. This year, we see it flipped on its head. You have cities like Atlanta that bridge the gap between mainstream sports. You think of the college football playoffs are held there year in, year out. Super Bowls are going to be held there moving forward year in and year out. And the Houstons of the world, the Seattles, football has changed. It's a global game, and it's becoming a national game. So to see cities as well that are going to have a big part and a big influence on, say, South American teams, countries from all around the world, I just think this is more of a representation of the joy of the world and the joy of the world's game coming to the United States. So I'm glad that the net has been cast way wider, and I'm glad that we're really getting more of a global feel with the expanded format in 2026. I mean, we had this conversation on Morning Footy, I think it was yesterday, and the question was, are you in favor of this expanded format? Or do you like the old way where it was 32 teams? For me, I'm always an advocate for representation. I'm an advocate for opportunity. And having more teams gives opportunity for people to fall in love with the underdog. Us as Americans, we love a good underdog story. And the continent that has constantly been the underdog in world football has been Africa. Last World Cup in Qatar, Morocco made the semifinals for the first time ever. An African team made that run. More African teams means more opportunities for that continent to move the standard forward and truly compete with the world powers of South America and Europe.
I love it, Michael. And let's kind of piggyback off of that, because as you mentioned, it's expanding from 32 teams to 48. So we have 12 groups of 4, the top 2 from each group, plus the 8 best third-place team, if I can say that 12 times fast. The tournament's going to be longer. If we're looking at all the different changes, I know you talked about expansion and more opportunities, but how else do you think this is going to benefit having this expansion in place, aside from, of course, more opportunities for more continents and more people?
Yeah, look, we all know, like in life and in sports, it's not an equal playing field. And so the thing that people don't often know about or think about is you need money and an influx of money that you get from being part of the World Cup. That impacts some of these other countries that don't have the money to find the right players, that don't have the money to recruit, that don't have the money to get the right infrastructure, to get better practice facilities, better training facilities, better gear, better boots, construction on stadiums. And Morocco is such a prime example that Morocco, being part of a World Cup, they were able to use that money that came in from advertisement, from sales, from the World Cup revenue, to re-put and reinvest that money into their academies, into how they went and they scouted players. And we saw the fruits of their labor, where now Morocco is the best team in Africa, and they're a team that no one in world football wants to play against. Having more teams who are exposed to that financial windfall, I think of the Egypts of the world, who they have one of the best players in the world in Mohamed Salah. He could win the Ballon d'Or this season. He's a top 3 candidate. Imagine if Egypt gets a financial resources. Countries like Ivory Coast, Nigeria has been a powerhouse in Africa. And that's just not to the continent. That can go to South America, where you have countries on the rise like Paraguay, where I remember Paraguay in the 1998 World Cup. We really haven't seen them do much past that World Cup. So this is something that can be a domino effect that I think levels the playing field, and more competition throughout the World Cup, more competition at the international level means more fans in this country and more fans around the world. So it's a win-win for everyone. You know
what? Hearing about all these other countries on the rise is kind of offsetting my disappointment in the U.S. men's national team where we're looking a year out. So let's circle back to it. We just talked about it off the top of this segment. Losing to the Swiss 4-0. They're winless in 7 straight matches against European teams. So with all of that in mind, what are some realistic expectations for the red, white, and blue as we are a year out from the World Cup?
Well, it starts with the Gold Cup coming up, because every game matters, every tournament matters, but truly every game matters. And I know people are upset about Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic's not there. So I want people to just stop with that. Get over it, right? I think a lot of times it's when your best players aren't there, it's, oh, well, this is on Christian. No. There's still some players that Mauricio Pochettino have who oftentimes the Gold Cup, you use that to find who your diamond in the roughs are going to be. Typically, we see our B, C, even D teams sometimes go. You don't oftentimes see your A teams play from start to finish. So for this U.S. men's national team, this comes at a crucial time to stop this sense of crisis going on. And there's growing pains that are happening. Mauricio Pochettino is a very experienced manager when it comes to club football. He does not have experience when it comes to the international level. And he got a footballing lesson, a footballing education of what it means to be an international manager against Turkey and mostly against Switzerland. He put a team out there that should have never been on the field, and it's respecting your opponent and respecting the need for confidence in this group ahead of a massive Gold Cup. So for all the negatives that are being taken out of that game, I think people can take a deep breath, work with me now, because I've got something positive to go for after these games. there are players that you can trust. So I'm looking at the Diego Lunas of the world, the Patrick Agimons of the world, the Johnny Cardozos, who need to have a redemptive performance in the Gold Cup, the Haji Wright, who this is his opportunity to stake claim to that starting number 9 position. Those are the storylines to keep tabs of in the Gold Cup. And then when we get our A team, we can start putting the pieces together. But the work is set up, and he's got his work cut out for him in Poch, because time is running out. And this next month will tell us a lot about not tactically what the U.S. is made of, but character-wise and integrity and that will to win. Those 3 things, if the U.S. team doesn't have them, then I'll hit the panic button. And you can quote it right there that you heard it here first. Time to panic.
Okay, so not panicking just yet. A lot of deep breaths and good vibes being sent to the U.S. men's national team for that first Gold Cup match Sunday against Trinidad on the 19th. All right, so if we talk about the favorites, that is France and Spain for the World Cup. They are co-favorites at 6-1. So if we're looking at both of these teams, who do you give the edge to at this moment in time?
I give the edge to Spain. Spain are in the ascendancy right now. They have arguably the best player in the world in Lamine Yamal. They have a young core of players who just get better and better. And they have the benefit of playing together at Barcelona and some of the biggest clubs in the world. I mean, from back to front, Lamine Yamal, you have Nico Williams, who could easily walk into a lot of, or just about any team in world football right now. Nico Williams with a Spain jersey is a better Nico Williams than most players could ever dream of in their career or lifetime. But they have the right manager in Luis de la Fuente, who has a pedigree of developing and coaching young players. France, and this is going to be the burning opinion that I hope they prove me wrong. I don't see them having the cutting edge, and they don't have the right manager in Didier Deschamps. It's gone stale. They're spoiled for riches in terms of talent. They've killed Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, Desiree Doué put on a clinic in the Champions League final. But as an international manager, I can tell you from experience of being at the international level, you're only as good as the manager who can direct you and guide you in the right direction. And right now, Didier Deschamps is a pragmatic manager who doesn't know how to put together and find balance in an attack-heavy French team. So I actually have France maybe losing as early as the quarterfinals. So I don't think they're going to win it at all.
Oh, wow. France last winning in 2018 and then Spain 2010. Michael LaHoud, we certainly appreciate it, getting us pumped for the World Cup, maybe giving us some realistic expectations for the U.S. men's national team as we are just 1 year out. So for everything you need to know leading up to the World Cup next summer, make sure you stay locked in to the Galazzo Network. News, highlights, live matches. We have it all for you there. And, of course, streaming on Paramount Plus as well.
With 1 year to go until the World Cup kicks off right here in the United States, the morale is at an all-time low, my friends. After the U.S. men's national team lost 4-0 to Switzerland last night, it's not the time when you want to put up a historically bad performance. It was the first time since 1980 against Mexico that the national team allowed 4 goals in the opening 40 minutes of a match. Things certainly will need to change stateside if America's going to have any shot in the World Cup next year. We've got Galazzo soccer analyst Jimmy Conrad joining the program. Jimmy, normally it's like exciting when we're talking, but nothing we watched yesterday was exciting, and I had a chance to catch your live with a few of your colleagues as well. The vibes on the live were good. The game was not, and there's a lot of numbers here that back it up, but ultimately this was a bad performance historically for Team USA.
Yeah, it wasn't great, Haley. I don't necessarily want to kick these guys when they're down, but it was a disappointing performance. Not just from the players, but from the coaching staff as well. We made 9 changes to our starting 11 from our 2-1 loss to Turkey a couple days earlier. And I think that severely impacted the team. More hopeful, right? There's a distinction, a very important distinction between making plays where you hope something works out and then knowing something's going to work out. And this goes with the starting 11 as well. We hoped that starting 11 was going to bring it, right? We hoped that these players who were on the precipice of making a World Cup roster, who are on the fringes of making a World Cup roster, will play their A games. And instead of just knowing that we're going to put out players that can go out there and give you a 7 or 8 out of 10 every time they step on the field. So they have to be disappointed. They didn't perform well. And most importantly, I guess for me is, okay, we give up the first goal. How are we reacting to that afterwards? Clearly, Switzerland were doing some things to have some success. We need problem solvers on the field that can say, hey, listen, this is where they're doing very well out wide. How do we negate that? How do we figure that out? And that wasn't happening. So 13th minute, we give up a goal. 10 minutes later, we give up the second. 10 minutes after that, we give up the third. 3 minutes after that, we give up the fourth. We're down 4-0 after 36 minutes. And yes, there has to be some responsibility accepted by the coaching staff. Mauricio Pochettino has already done so in the post-game press conference. But the players need to solve games in problem. Whether you like the guy you're playing next to, whether you think he's good enough or not, at that point, it doesn't matter, Haley, right? You have to go out there and make plays and figure out the best way to solve problems, because that's what's going to happen to us in the World Cup. At some point, we're going to have to solve problems. Nobody's going to just lay down because we're the hosts and think, oh, we're so happy the U.S. are hosting. Let's just give them a free ticket to the knockout rounds. It's just not going to happen that way. We're going to have to go out there and fight for everything that we get. And right now, we're not seeing enough of that fight and problem solving for me, which makes me a little bit frustrated. I think you're picking it up in the tone of my voice.
I mean, it frustrates me too, especially when we roll the video back and you talk about where do we need to improve. The answer is everywhere. You saw the dive in there by the outside back, the poor goalkeeping from Matt Turner, which is, not always his fault, but still, just all across the board, there's a lot of frustration. And I know you mentioned Mauricio Pochettino taking some accountability after the game, but there's been a conversation, Jimmy, surrounding his hire. Was he the right fit here? And I know it takes a time to develop what you want your coaching strategy and your play strategy to be. But it feels like Team USA doesn't have that time. What does Poch do, especially with the Gold Cup literally next week?
Well, I think the Gold Cup is a great exercise to start to figure out who can help you and who can't in a real way, right? There's these friendly games, right? We can still put it in that category. There's nothing really riding on these games. You're still in the evaluation process, and a lot can happen in 12 months. I think it's clear that we have probably 9, 10, 11, 12 core guys that he's going to build around. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys aren't around for various reasons. And now you get to see and find if you can get those diamonds in the rough that can maybe help you in certain situations. That could be super subs. And then you want to find other guys that are going to probably be like number 16 to 26 on your roster that you can use and trust in a pinch, that are going to be good teammates, that are going to elevate the experience both on and off the field, and are going to push the guys that are the core guys to be the best that they possibly can be. And that's what he's ultimately got to use this Gold Cup to find out, because the core guys, once they come back in, then once they come back into the fold, then we can start to build on that identity and style of play that you're talking about. Without having those guys on the team, this is, for me, a big missed opportunity, because the Gold Cup provides us with 30 days to be around each other and to figure out how we're going to solve problems on both sides of the field. I feel like a soccer nerd talking about problem solving, but this is what you need. And you need to have guys that can think quickly and be fluid and adaptable to whatever the situation is.
And it's important for those of you at home, like Jimmy has lived through this. You played on the U.S. men's national team, so that's where that fire and that passion comes from, because you've been in these situations. So then when you hear maybe that a Christian Pulisic is tired, and rightfully so, he's had a crazy stretch playing over in Europe. Some of the bigger guys have started to talk as well. Landon Donovan, of course, former U.S. men's national team striker, spoke out over the weekend when it came to some of those stars playing in the Gold Cup. He said, quote, "If you don't want to take this as a professional soccer player, as someone who gets the opportunity to wear that jersey and take it seriously and responsibly, then don't come in." He went on to say, quote, "Ronaldo is 40 years old. He played a long-ass season. He's tired, and yet he's out there grinding. He hurt himself in the process, and he can't help but think about some of our guys on vacation, not wanting to play in the Gold Cup. It's pissing me off." And, of course, he's referring to Cristiano Ronaldo playing in the Nations League over the weekend, Portugal beating Spain, and he gets a championship. But, Jimmy, it all boils down to the stars on this team, and there's just been a lot of conversation about the buy-in. Do you agree with what Landon is saying?
So I agree with what Landon is saying. I just find it ironic, and this is being a longtime friend and teammate of Landon, that he's the one saying it in this way, because he also took a sabbatical and asked to not play for the national team back in the day ahead of the 2014 World Cup during World Cup qualifying season. So I find it interesting that that's the angle that he wants to take, when he should have empathy for Christian Pulisic and others who do need a little downtime for whatever reason. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be a whole bunch of different stuff that we don't know. And so, yeah, the Landon Donovan quotes are interesting. I do agree with him that this is a very important time of this cycle, of this World Cup cycle, to be around the group as much as possible, especially if you are one of the leaders of the team. And I look forward to exploring more of that part of the conversation with Christian Pulisic. By the way, Haley, he's coming on our podcast tomorrow. call it what you want, okay? 10 a.m. Eastern on the Golazo America YouTube channel. Christian Pulisic is joining me and Charlie Davies and Tony Miola, and we're going to get into it with him. So hopefully we'll get some more in-depth understanding as to why he elected to sit this one out. But yeah, it's a missed opportunity, not only for him, but we have others that are missing out. And Mauricio Pochettino clearly has some method to his methodology, a method to his madness, as it were. And so I think as time progresses, we'll see a little bit more of that. But for right now, it hurts because we're coming off the back of 2 losses recently with Turkey and Switzerland. And then, of course, we got humbled by Canada and Panama in the Nations League as well. 4 straight losses is going to start to raise some eyebrows as to what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, it's just been tough. And then you factor in that today everyone's supposed to be excited because for 1 year from now we're hosting the World Cup, and it just doesn't feel good. So early expectations for that Gold Cup. We saw the players who won't be playing in it. We have what we have here, Jimmy. So what do you expect out of Team USA?
I expect a good performance, right? We got to have a rebound, a reaction, a positive reaction to this rut that we're in. I know that Mauricio Pochettino has rightfully been discussing the process, right? Trying to evaluate. Well, at some point, we have to also throw in winning into the equation. How do these guys know how to win? How can they manage the game if we're up a goal or whatever? We need to be in that position a little bit more as opposed to chasing the game, which we've been doing over the last 4 games in particular. So I want to see us winning. I want us to set a culture of winning, an attitude and mindset of winning. And this is a good opportunity to get a good run of games, 5 or 6 games in a row. Hopefully we'll get to take on Panama again so we can get some revenge. Hopefully we can get Canada and then, of course, our big rivals Mexico as well. And I think if we can right the ship and have good performances in this particular competition, that will put some wind in our sails. And then hopefully we can do well in our September friendlies against South Korea and Japan.
I'm taking a deep breath, and I am forgetting yesterday's 4-0 loss. Jimmy, we're certainly excited for Team USA to turn it around, and we're excited for your interview with Christian Pulisic tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., people, the Call It What You Want podcast. You can catch that on Golazo America's YouTube channel, so tune in there. As you also get set for Team USA playing in that Gold Cup. This is a tournament Team USA typically does pretty well in as you look at the matchups on deck.